It's my distinct pleasure now to interview and introduce just a wonderful friend and maybe somebody who may be the longest standing head coach in the history of Notre Dame in the 180 years history. He's in his 35th year as the head coach of the men's lacrosse team, believe it or not. And the men's lacrosse team is ranked number 1 in the nation right now. And Coach Kevin Corrigan's squad have won 18 conference championships, have been in a number of finals, and he boasts a 313 versus 153 losses, or 672 winning percentage during his amazing Notre Dame tenure. And we're thrilled to have you with us, Kevin, and thanks so much for taking the time out. So start out by telling us a little bit about the amazing Corrigan family. You guys have a long history in intercollegiate sport, and especially going back to the days when your dad was the athletic director here at Notre Dame. Tell us a little bit about the Corrigan family, its history, and where things stand today.
Yeah, my dad and all his brothers, Lou, were at some point involved in college athletics, and kind of became the family business. My dad always says we owed it to the fact that he grew up in a 1-bathroom house with just a bathtub and 6 kids, and so they got into sports because it came with a shower every day. That was the best reason for them to go on and play. But my dad and his brothers all played collegiate lacrosse, and then my dad became a coach. Back in the days of if you think about this now, and when my dad got out of coaching, he eventually went into sports administration. But when he got out of coaching, he was the head lacrosse coach, the head soccer coach, and the sports information director at the University of Virginia, all simultaneously.
Wow.
There are probably 35 people doing those 3 things now at the University of Virginia, right? But that was what sports were then, and so when people think this is a disruptive time in college sports and everything's changing, things have always been changing. They've been evolving and changing for years. But yeah, Dad went on to become an athletic director at Virginia and here, and then the commissioner of the ACC. His brother Dick was a coach, a collegiate coach in lacrosse, and then worked at Yale as a coach, and then was a college administrator for years. And his other 2 brothers, dabbled in it, but were smart enough to go into the business world and make real money.
And how about your brothers? You've got a series of brothers that are in the world of sports as well.
Yeah, my brother Boo is the athletic director at NC State. Brother Tim is the executive producer of NBA basketball for ESPN. And David coached high school lacrosse, and then came to law school at Notre Dame and coached at Notre Dame for 2 years before he went to start his firm in Richmond, Virginia. And then my brother Brian coached as well for a couple of years before he went into a sports apparel business. So yeah, it's kind of the family business. And both, honestly, my sister, has coached, and she's got her daughter is now the head lacrosse coach at Butler. My brother David's son is the head basketball coach at Ferrum College. Couple other kids working at ESPN and things like that. So yeah, it continues to kind of roll through the family there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I'm going to brag a little bit on Notre Dame here. If you look at Boo at North Carolina State is the athletic director in that research triangle there. All 3 of the athletic directors, Nina King at Duke and Bubba Cunningham, a classmate of mine at North Carolina, all 3 are Notre Dame alumni. And to see that there they are in the heart of the North Carolina triangle makes me feel good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And listen, I got to mention one other person in our family who's in coaching, because my wife will kill me if I don't mention that my son Will is coaching lacrosse at Harvard right now too. So better slip that in before I
and another Notre Dame grad who was a stellar player back in the day for your teams, and to see that they're doing really well at Harvard is great to see.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. So tell us about 35 years ago, you come to be the head lacrosse coach at Notre Dame. It had to be, I don't know, were you playing on dirt back then, or what was it like? I mean, it had to, when you look at the program as you found it back then, and where it is today. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, well, honestly, I was lucky the program was in the condition that it was, and where it was, because I never would have gotten the job if it was the job that it is today. It would have been way above my pay grade there. So
how old were you when you took that job?
29.
29.
Yeah. And so Rich O'Leary was the coach before me, and thank God for Rich O'Leary, because Notre Dame wouldn't have lacrosse if it wasn't for Rich O'Leary. He was running along with Tom Kelly the rec sports here at Notre Dame, and had been a collegiate lacrosse player, and so he coached the club team. And when they went to become varsity, they just kind of gave it to Rich, and he still had a full-time job on the side that he was doing and trying to coach at the same time. But just one of the great human beings of all time.
Yeah.
And everybody, knows, everybody who was around lacrosse at that time knows Rich, and knows that it doesn't happen without him. Lacrosse doesn't become a varsity sport here. So, but when I got here, it was just getting off the ground. Right. And so many things have changed. And, you think about 35 years, Lou, I mean, part of the reason that I'm still here is because it was just getting started when I got here. And a lot of people, most people in coaching, frankly, have to take steps to move up the ladder of coaching. I didn't. I was lucky enough to be at a place where those steps were being taken. The additional resources being provided by the university, the growth of the game in general, that was kind of, instead of us being on the outside looking in, kind of put us more in the mainstream of the sport. All those things that led to our development. I was lucky enough to be here when it happened, so I didn't have to keep chasing that next job to take steps. I was able to stay here and take those steps with the program, which was just a very fortunate thing, because, as you know, we love being in South Bend. We have great friends, and we've raised all our kids here. Liz came out, and my second year here, we got married, and she told me, all right, you got 3 years to win some games and get us back to Virginia. But it didn't quite work out that way. Here we are 35 years later. And
she's taking deep roots. She won't let you leave and go anywhere. She's got deep roots now. So tell us a little bit. I remember this, refresh my memory. This may be inaccurate, but you made it to the Final Four, I think for the first time, when you had 0 scholarship players on your team. It was a time when, back in the day, I forget the year, but I'm going to guess it was in
2001.
In 2001, and so it was quite miraculous that you took all these non-scholarship athletes and you took them to the Final Four against these other programs that had, were filled with the maximum allotment of scholarships, and it was just tremendous coaching and a great group of guys. But then you went through a little dip, because all of a sudden you did get scholarship players, and it was a different dynamic because you had more egos and more playing time and issues. Tell us a little bit about that transition and what you learned and how you navigated it.
Yeah, I really didn't handle that well. And when I look back on it, I just didn't do a good job of understanding the dynamics would change a little bit. One of the things that has to exist for you to coach a team is that they have to trust you and you have to trust them. And you have to trust that everybody's working in each other's best interest, right? I mean, that's a fundamental thing that has to be in place. And when we were all non-scholarship, that was there. And there was never, when guys may have disagreed with me or with who was playing in front of them or whatever, but they never thought anything nefarious was going on. They just thought that I wasn't smart enough to see how good they were. And then when the scholarships came in, I think it really messed with the kind of the culture and the dynamic of our team, because guys weren't sure, is this guy playing in front of me because he's better than me or because he's on scholarship, and is there something more in play here, and so when that started to erode a little bit of the trust in the room, I didn't respond well and recognize it and do a good enough job communicating with everybody about what exactly was going on, and so we suffered through that. We had to learn and almost kind of reestablish the culture of the program at a time where we thought we really had things going in the right direction. We did have things going in the right direction. We not only we reached the Final Four the year before that, we had lost by a couple goals to get to the Final Four, so we were right there on the cusp of being one of the top teams, and we took a step backwards there for a couple of years, but you learn a lot from stuff like that, and nobody's bulletproof in this thing, and you're going to take some knocks, and you just got to kind of keep moving forward and know what the things that are really important are, and keep everybody focused on those things.
So you've been doing this same job, even though the program has evolved significantly over the years. This is your 35th season. Do you wonder at some point, do I still have the edge? Am I too entrenched in my ways? How do you continually reinvent yourself, and what kind of internal discussions do you have about your own leadership after this long a tenure?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. I mean, listen, as life's a contact sport, right?
Yeah.
And you still get things wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And don't those things that whether it's in a leadership front with your staff, or whether it's with your team or whatever, you're trying to do the best job that you can, knowing what and at the same time, empower your players and your coaches and everybody around you to do the best job that they can, and guide them when it needs to be guided, but also reinforce what they're doing and that kind of thing. And I get that kind of thing wrong all the time. I'm lucky. One of the things that I've always said about Notre Dame, and this is a really, really fortunate thing, is that it just attracts such good people.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether we're talking about the kids on the team or the coaches that you work with, the people that want to be here are great people, and they kind of have the grace to let you, mess things up, and still keep moving forward, and in a really positive way. So, you get those things wrong, Lou, but you can't stop. You just have to keep trying to learn and move forward. And again, you're lucky when you're surrounded by good people that help you through that.
So you played lacrosse at Virginia back in the day. You're a UVA grad, and this week sees you as ranked as you're halfway through the season. You're 6-0 on a 12-game regular season, and you are ranked number 1 in the nation. You're playing against number 3 UVA, who just prior to this week was ranked number 1 in the nation, losing in overtime to Maryland. Does it stimulate you anymore going up against your alma mater? What are your feelings going into a highly charged home matchup like this weekend against UVA?
Yeah, well, I mean, first you dialed in and focused on the job, getting ready for the next team and all that. There's no question about that. And we get to number 1, so you're worried about our guys. How do our guys feel about things? Our guys have been great. They've been so focused on what they want to become as a team that we haven't kind of rode the usual ups and downs that you see a lot of times. We've been really consistent in our approach. Every now and then you got to light a little fire, but mostly it's a very player-led team, which is fantastic. And the guys, the leaders within our team have been great. So they've kept us focused, and everything is, as I told you earlier, I got a reminder when the poll came out on Monday. I quickly got a text from one of my brothers who said, just remember, they don't publish the halftime scores. So, I know, like you, I've got brothers that keep me pretty straight
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
That's fantastic. So Kevin, you talk about the
but
three
but
pillars. Yeah.
let me say this about Virginia, Lou. I didn't just go to Virginia. When I was born, my dad was the coach there. Left for a couple of years, came back and was the athletic director there. So, but when I went to UVA as a student, I had been in Charlottesville, an ardent UVA fan for 18 or 16 of my 18 years, right there in Charlottesville. So, of course, I still feel a little tug, but it just kind of, at this point, it's more about just beating them, than anything else. But I love the University of Virginia and grew up, so attached to that whole sports program.
Yeah, Charlottesville can't compare to South Bend. I mean, let's
No,
be really clear about that.
no chance.
We're the next Charlottesville. We're building South Bend here. It's moving in the right direction. So you talk about three pillars that are fundamental to your program: character, community, and culture. Tell us a little bit about those pillars and why have they been the cornerstones that you've led with in trying to mold and shape the next generation of leaders?
Well, I mean, I think this comes from two things, really. My dad, who always, made clear to me, and as I was getting into coaching, and I watched him, as an athletic director and things, and talking to other coaches, that you're more than it's more than the game. It's your opportunity to influence people. Talking about the 50 guys in the room every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, you come to Notre Dame, and those 50 guys that are in our locker room every day, they're lucky if they get a great professor twice, right? And have that voice in their head. They're going to listen to me for 4 years, for better or worse. They're going to hear my voice and almost every day. So I take it as a responsibility to be about more than just the game, because that's how I was raised, and how I believe athletics can be such a powerful force. And the other thing is Notre Dame. That the character, culture, community thing really was not something I came here with when I was 29, but as I was here and I saw what Notre Dame is all about, and learned. That just fit. That fit what, when I talk to families about, sending their son here and that kind of thing. Those are the things we talk about. Those are the things that are important. What is the culture of our team and our university, and what are we doing in the community to help other people, because we're talking about developing their son over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, I want them to know that we think they're going to leave a better lacrosse player and have a chance to have these great experiences through the game. But we also think, more importantly, they're going to grow as people, and we want to be a really positive part of that.
So there's three things that I've witnessed about your program over the years that have really separated it from even other programs, spectacular programs here at Notre Dame. And one is that your teams have been so committed to service. I remember back in the day when I was working at the South Bend Center for the Homeless, I remember the number of lacrosse players that would come down to volunteer there, or at the Robinson Community Learning Center. You find a way to engage your teams in service regularly, and it really, I think, sets the program apart. Secondly, let me
make one comment about the center.
Yeah.
The one thing I remember about the Center for the Homeless is you told me that probably the only time in history that the men's lacrosse team and the junior league were sitting in the same room for an hour was down at the homeless center.
One of the groups was for a volunteer orientation. Let's just say that one of the groups was a little better appointed, better dressed than the other. I like that. It was really an odd combination, but a beautiful combination. And so you've done so much of that, which again goes back to this kind of the character and the community and culture formation that you talked about. The second thing, and I remember this distinctly, there was an article back in the day that compared you to the Newt Rockne of lacrosse. And it was talking about how you have been an incredible champion for the game. when you began 35 years ago, this was an East Coast sport. And it is kind of, run across the fastest growing sport in America for many years. And it's penetrated the Midwest and the West Coast and everything. And you have taken on games all over the country. You've gone to camps like a missioner to spread the word of the game. And then you've even taken our team up to play in inner city neighborhoods in Chicago to do tutorials for kids along that way. So you've been an incredible ambassador for the game. Tell us about that role and why you think that's been so important.
Well, one at a time. The service first. One of the things about the service is it instills in our guys a sense of gratitude and humility, right? And I think that's a great place to start as a team and trying to build out the things, culturally that you want within the team. There's nothing like service, right? Again, the lessons from our parents, right? I mean, my mother and father were not ones listening to whining or complaining. They were always like, hey, if you're complaining too much, then you need to go out and find out how many other people have it way tougher than you do. Like you get one complaint about something, that's it. After that, go out and do something for somebody else and realize how lucky you are. And I kind of feel like that with our guys. I think when they do this service, they get more out of it than they give to it. And especially if we do it right, if we do it well, and they truly engage in it and interact with people. And at Notre Dame, Lou, one of the people that I just love in this community is Jay Caponegro, who has just done an unbelievable job. He's just a wonderful person, and somebody like that, he inspires you. He gives you ideas of ways to connect with different people in the community. He knows the people here, and he's really done great things to help us to really find meaningful service opportunities where we weren't patting ourselves on the back and standing around, waving. We were engaging with people and making a difference, hopefully, in a meaningful way for both people. And I think everybody gets something out of that.
Yeah, he continues to be a great leader in this community. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And then, as far as the missionary zeal of the game, I kind of grew up with that, right? My dad was coaching. When my dad was coaching, there probably weren't 25 college lacrosse teams in the country in Division I, and so, I grew up with the game growing and expanding. When I was in Virginia, we became the second public high school in the state of Virginia to have a varsity team, right? And so I understood that, the game is such a great game, and there's so many positive things about it. It's got such a great history, and it stays connected to that history. I mean, lacrosse is a game, you don't hear baseball talking about the origins of their game a lot, but in lacrosse you do, because it was, given to us by the Native American community, and it meant so much more in that community than simply a game. It wasn't just an exercise. It's known as the creator's game or the medicine game in that community, because it was more to them than that. And that's kind of permeated through this game. So I love that aspect of it. When we got here, there was also a very practical function. We were the farthest west of anybody playing Division I lacrosse. And I said we could either be on the outside looking in, or we can be on the edge looking out. Let's be that. Let's be that connector between where the game in the East and all that. And let's help the game grow and expand, and let's be part of that. And that puts us right in the middle instead of putting us on the edge. And I think, so we played games in Seattle and San Diego and Boston and Florida and Texas and so you're going all over the country, and it's just part of that community's growth in the game. So it was a practical purpose in it, and it was also just a love for the game and wanting to see it become as popular as I think it can and should be.
Well, the third area that I think you have distinguished the lacrosse program is in the area what you have done, and this goes back many years, to prepare your students for employment after they graduate from Notre Dame. And the number of lacrosse players who are flourishing on Wall Street that have gone into all kinds of other professions, internships, relationships that you've helped to parlay for our students to be able to enter into the work world. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that, again, there's two sides to that. There's a very practical side that says, in recruiting, when we can point to what our guys are doing and how successful they are as men, as fathers, as people in their community, as professionals, all of that, right? Very, very practical side of selling that as this is what we're aiming for and this is where we're going to. But the other side of it, again, is trading on the passion that people have for sports, and the ability that gives you to influence things. And so, for our guys to keep them focused on the fact that, yes, we care a lot about this. We come together every day for 2 to 3 hours and we care passionately about what we're doing, but let's not lose sight of, and have the wrong perspective on where this fits into our lives and in the long run. I mean, and so we can use it in a really positive way that way. And I'll tell you, the Notre Dame community is amazing. You know this better than anybody. When I started reaching out to people to try to help our guys professionally, I found people on the other end it was like they were waiting to be asked. I mean, they were so excited to help someone from Notre Dame and so excited to help our guys. And they made it look like we were doing a lot more than we were, because they jumped right in with both feet and said, let me help this guy, or let me help this group of kids. And how can we host you guys in New York? Can we do something when you come to our community? And this is, so when we go to San Diego or somewhere like that, we've got Notre Dame alums who want to invite us to their company. And so we started taking fall trips and we go to San Francisco and our guys are going to Google and EA Sports and things, because Notre Dame alums can't wait to show these guys that and can't wait to try to recruit them into their world, And again, just like I said, makes it look like we're doing more than we are, because those people are so willing and ready to help on the other end.
Well, you're humble in the way you portray it, but it is accurate that the Notre Dame family is always ready to step up and help, and we just need to ask, and that's great. One of the stories that embodies this character, culture, and community for me is a good friend, a former player of yours, and a colleague of both of ours, Adam Sargent, who has been here at the university for many years and is the academic advisor for the football program, does just a stellar job in that area and has been doing it for years. During his playing years was involved in a car accident and was paralyzed. And you know this better than anybody, but struggled to come back from that, and is just led such an exemplary and meaningful life, and been an inspiration to so many of us.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Keenan, one of his classmates, who's done well in Wall Street and one of these positions, came back and endowed a grant and aid in Adam's name. I mean, that kind of, as a coach, when you look at that kind of, it must feel really good. It brings it all together.
Yeah, no doubt. Adam's one of my personal heroes, a great friend, but as you said, just an inspiration to me, because, like I said before, we all get knocked down. We all get, we all have failures. We all have things. I mean, this is a guy that he didn't spend any time whining or complaining or any of the other things. I'm like all of us, I know he has his moments, but what he really did was just get back and start moving forward and just, shifted away from athletics and into academics and is just an amazing man and father and leader over in academic services now for those guys. And that connectedness with his teammates, right, to see that flourish and mean something all those years later, where Jimmy and other classmates, contributed to really it's almost like 2 full scholarships, I think, in that endowment now that the generosity of Adam's classmates and friends and people that he's worked with here.
Great story. So you've
Yeah.
been around long enough. We're going to call you Methuselah for a second. That you've got some players on the team whose parents you coached way back in the day.
Yeah, Chris
Can you-
Nelson.
yeah,
Chris Nelson last year or 4 years ago, he graduated last year, but he was the first of those guys. But yeah, I've got Ryan Sforzo's on our team right now, and yeah, it's getting that way.
yeah. It's got to be surreal, right? To
Makes
have
you feel old.
remember their fathers and then be coaching the sons, right?
No doubt. I remember when I first got here, I was calling all the parents sir. Now they call me sir. I know, it's like I'm like no, I don't like that. But
It's their gray flowing locks. I think that's getting you there. So, tell us what keeps you motivated after this? What keeps you getting up, excited and energized every day to do the work that you've been doing so exceptionally well for the past 35 years?
yeah, I don't know. I don't have to talk myself into being motivated. I guess that's the thing. I love what I'm doing. The relationships are why you stay in the game. You get into coaching because you love the game. You love being around the game, the competitiveness, the whole thing. You want to share that. You stay in the game because of the relationships that you form, and those relationships. As much as there are days in coaching that feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, because you're doing that same thing on a Tuesday that you've done for years. The thing that's always fresh and new is the relationships and the people, and that never ceases to be the thing that makes you want to get up in the morning and the thing that keeps you up at night. And
Yeah.
I know we had a game a couple of weeks ago, and at 6 a.m. I think we played at 2. At 6 a.m, I was texting with one of my brothers, and I was like, "Well, I've been up since 4:30, and so I guess that's a good sign that I'm not done yet." It's still burning.
Well, you come from incredible stock, having just known, loved, revered your parents for many years. We lost your dad, Gino, a few years ago, and he was an epic leader, hired Lou Holtz and helped to modernize Notre Dame's athletic department, did an incredible job here as he served the place. But your mother, Lena, she's the Italian one. And so, you have learned from her many things. Part of you've got this Italian edge. You have no problem lighting a fire under your team, and sometimes laced with a little colorful language. Tell us a little bit about this Irish father and this Italian mother, and how they've kind of shaped who you are and the type of coach you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything. I go back to my family on almost everything, and I think parenting informs your coaching, and coaching informs your parenting, for sure. My parents are unbelievable. By the way, my mother on the colorful language, she hates it. She's always says it's such a lack of imagination. You're too smart to resort to those words, and she's right. Of course. But my parents were great. I mean, we grew up in a different era too. We used to joke, it was the era of benign neglect. Our parents loved us and guided us, but they never told us every move to make. They weren't looking over our shoulder in those days. My mom, we had 7 kids. My mom was not at everything you did. She couldn't be, because she had 6 other kids doing something else. And so I think that was a great way to grow up. You did things because you wanted to do them, not because anybody else was influencing you or guiding you. But if you were doing it, my parents were going to make sure you did it hard and did it well, and didn't, short shrift anybody, especially your teammates or coaches, by not being all in. You can quit at the end of the year, but there was no quitting before then, right? And so just all the lessons, Lou. I mean, you grew up in a similar situation with great parents and a family full of love, just like I did, but also a family that is the first ones to call you out and the first ones to
Sure.
to crack a joke about something that just helps keep everything in perspective, right? And
Yeah.
so, feel very, very fortunate that's and listen, I mean, I was actually talking with one of my players yesterday, who just lost one of their grandparents, and they were saying, I was asking about how their father was doing, and I said, I don't care what age you are when you lose them, it's a
Yeah.
tough loss, but I said at the same time, I feel pretty fortunate in life to have gotten to 62 years old and still had both my parents, right, and
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we do is, I consider you obviously a very, very good friend, and we take some long walks together. And one of the things I've learned over the years is to not walk with you within several days of a loss, because you are still a horrible, pathetic loser. And you just sulk and you're just miserable. It's so tell, has it gotten, have you gotten any better at that over the years? How is it that it still, yeah.
I wish I had. I don't know how. Somehow I have not gotten any. But I can't sleep for days after a loss. I'm just miserable, and I try not to project that onto everybody around me. But
But you
I'm
do.
probably not very good at it. But yeah,
And it's so, this sport of lacrosse, it seems to me, not knowing that much about it, but the edges are so razor thin. The difference about, I mean, the goals, one goal win, the number of overtime games when you get, especially with these top teams, and you're entering into ACC play right now, the difference, the separation between joy and utter dismay is very, very fine.
Oh, it's so funny. We just played a triple overtime game with Maryland 2 weeks ago, right? And on the plane ride back, I was telling one of our assistants, I was like, how great it feels right now. You're kind of finally got a chance to sit down and relax, and you just have this wonder, and you're like, and the razor thin edge between winning and losing that game, we would be so miserable riding back on that plane,
Yeah.
and watching the film on the plane so you can see where something went wrong or whatever, and instead you're just kind of euphoric, and it's all on this razor thin edge. It's part of coaching, I guess. I like the fact that there's that level of emotional involvement and everything else, and I'm lucky that I have a wife and family that have put up with it all these years.
Yeah. The last year you didn't make the NCAA tournament, I think unjustly. And do you think that, I think you got a really special group this year? And I'm going to go out on a line here, and I know it's going to kill you when I say it, but I think this is the year you're going to win the national championship. But having said that, and you're ready to spit venom at me for saying this too early, do you think last year's setback, not making the tournament in the end, has it helped to drive these guys? Do you think it's driven the team to work even harder this year?
No question. It's driven them to be closer too. When they went through that together, and I can't tell you how that moment, that kind of horrifying moment when we realized that we were not in the field because we just kind of didn't see it coming. And again, it was unfair.
Yeah.
In the world of unfairness, I mean, I know your parents would be like mine. They're like, yeah, okay, get over it. Life's not fair. And in the world of unfairness, when you think about true, foundational, fundamental unfairness that exists out there in the world, and some things, it's like, all right, get over it. You're not playing in the tournament this year, but take responsibility for why, because it didn't come out of nowhere. And so we quickly, after loving on our guys for a day, we were quick to say, okay, now what part of this is ours? What do we got to own here? And how do we keep this from happening again? And to their credit, because I give all credit to our players, our seniors and our leaders have been phenomenal in the way they've brought the team together and continue to every day, every week. They've stayed focused, and they've stayed very, very connected with each other. And it's really a neat thing to see. And it's just a truism that player-led teams are the best teams, right? When the best leadership is within, then that's the best dynamic that you can have. And these guys, they took the challenge of what happened. They didn't spend the summer whining and complaining. They spent the summer getting better so that it wouldn't happen again. And I think that we're reaping the benefits of that now.
Yeah, it certainly shows. Oh, I have one final question, but I'd be remiss if I didn't add that this broadcast here, this live chat, is being led behind the scenes by your daughter, Sydney Corrigan. Sid works on our team, and Sid, okay, you got to just pop over here from behind the thing and just get on the screen here just for a second and say hi to Dad. Like this. Oh, she's taking her coat off here. I love it.
I said,
he's doing a great job. The technical part of this production has been better than ever. So that's all great. You got to be so proud. We're lucky to have her on our team.
Thank
you.
My
final question is, we do these Fighting Irish foodie shows where we interview different chefs from campus. And I know nothing about cooking. And I think they put me in this role because I add some levity and humor in my how obtuse I am in the kitchen. But you're quite an accomplished chef. And tell us a little bit about your love for cooking. I've been the beneficiary many of times talking with you over beer or some wine as you're cooking all day and then eating the fruits of your labor. Tell us about where does that come from, and would you be willing to come and be a chef someday on Fighting Irish Foodie?
Well, I want to be a guest eater. I'm not sure I want to be a guest chef. Those guys are real professionals. They know what they're doing. I'm just a cook, but I love it. There are two things about it. One, I grew up, as you said, with an Italian mother who was a great cook, and I didn't get married till I was 29. So something had to give, Lou. I wasn't making. I was coaching, so I wasn't making enough money to go out to good restaurants and eat. So I had to learn how to cook because it was the only way I was going to eat well in those days. And I'd been raised to appreciate eating well. And so that's all Birdie. That's all Birdie. She taught me, all the fundamentals of that. And the other thing is, it's a great way when you come home from something that you are so crazy involved with and, thinking about all the time and everything else. And just to do something, you're there in the kitchen and Liz is there, or whatever. And with the kids, over COVID, when we had the whole family, dinner was some kind of production every single night of the week for about 3.5 months there, where we just, and everybody was chipping in. And what a wonderful way to have your family together. I've always appreciated what food, how it brings people together and just like the many dinners with you and all our friends that, that we've shared over the years. And, it's just, there are a few things that can do that. There's sports, there's music, and there's food. Yeah. Right. That really bring people together like that in terms of just socially hanging out and doing things. And we're, so I'm a fan of all three.
That's great. I'd never thought about that. Those, sports, music, and food. But you're right. Those are convening forces in so many of our lives. Well, Kevin, thank you for being such an incredible leader for 35 years. Let me ask you one quickly. What was your salary when you began at age 29 as the head coach of the lacrosse team?
Well, I insisted. They offered me $10,000, and I insisted that they pay me 11. I was not coming for less than 11. So
did you get it? Did you get it?
I got it.
You've been a hell of a negotiator.
That's right. I actually Notre Dame was involved with Host Communications at the time, and I talked them into Host Communications. Gave me a part-time job on the side so I could make a little bit of extra money. And my good friend Joe Martin basically carried me for 3 years so that I could make enough money to feed my coaching habit.
When I started in this role, didn't you deliver programs for the
Yeah,
football?
thanks
You'd
for
come to the
bringing that
office
up.
and
But
drop
yes,
off
I did.
programs.
That was part of my duties. Was Friday morning. I met the program truck at 6 a.m. every football Friday, and then delivered the programs on campus to big shots like you.
To think that the coaches go into this profession for the money, you see the passion and the love and the devotion to our students, and now generations of students and the second generation that you're actually coaching. Thank you for your extraordinary leadership, your wit, your humor, your affection, your example. We're really blessed to have you here at Notre Dame, and we always close these programs and invite everybody to participate with us with a prayer to Our Lady, who continues to lead and emanate all that we do here at Notre Dame. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Thanks again, Kevin. God bless you all, and go Irish.
Thanks, Lou.